Joe Rogan goes non-exclusive, Bluesky expands, and the OpenAI New York Times lawsuit. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by the MacVoices Slack. Discussions, questions, and answers, and a place to talk tech with your friends. The MacVoices Slack is available to all patrons of MacVoices. Sign up at patreon.com/MacVoices and join in. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This time around, the MacVoices Live panel takes on 3 different topics that were in the news that we found very, very interesting. Let's let the panel get to it. We're running short on time. I'm going to just do a couple quick hits here because I've sort of had them hanging out. We've been beating on Spotify for months now. And so this is really, as far as I'm concerned, not a Spotify story, but Spotify has re-signed Joe Rogan to a new deal for his podcast. But now the podcast is not going to be a Spotify exclusive, so you'll be able to get it in Apple Podcasts or anywhere else, which I'm trying to figure out what that means. You know, were they not getting all the value they wanted out of Joe Rogan? And if they weren't, then why did they re-sign him? Did they get enough, or did he demand that he didn't want to be behind the paywall? There are just a lot of questions here that I have about this. That it made a certain amount of sense when he was just behind the Spotify paywall. Now it's still there, but just like MacVoices is on Spotify, so anybody can now listen to it. So did Spotify? Are they getting enough out of it to pay him what they're paying him?
I'm also thinking Joe Rogan probably wanted to be out in the open areas. Apple Podcasts, as we all know, is a great platform, and many podcasts flourish using Apple Podcasts. My podcast that's probably most of where my downloads are, and then there's others that I think that Joe Rogan probably saw the big picture. Yeah, it's great to be exclusive to Spotify, but there's so many other avenues that'll get more interest in his show than ever before. People don't want to be on the Spotify bandwagon. I'm on Spotify too, like you, Chuck, and it's the same thing. Yeah, it's another place to get information for a podcast. But my opinion is, I think Joe Rogan was just looking to let's sprout out, let's go out into the open podcast world and let's everybody hear it.
Yeah, that's fine. Rogan does a really good job. I just thought it was really interesting that they re-signed him, but decided to let it go run free.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good move.
So, yeah.
Yeah, honestly.
Go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
Honestly, Spotify's podcast vision has not quite gone as planned, to say the least.
Yeah, that probably puts it mildly. Along with a bunch of their other plans.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. We had a little interloper in the YouTube chat. He has now been blocked. So we can't have nice things. I think we'll make maybe this one the last one. But again, this is something else we've touched on a little bit. Bluesky has dropped their invitation-only model and now has opened it up, and they got 1 million users one day after opening it to the public. So does this mean that Bluesky will finally become what we would like to see it be?
Well, it's decentralized. That's the one big thing, just like Mastodon. So I think you're going to see a lot more instances, just like what we do on the Mastodon side of things. But people are kind of scared of that. Maybe it could get crazy out there, but being decentralized, don't have a lot of control like you do. But do you also want to have control like what X, Twitter has versus Bluesky? I think it's welcoming. I'm glad to see over 1 million people have already jumped on it, and another way of being able to be on social media and have the same or similar type of experience on Mastodon like we all enjoy.
I coveted an invitation to Bluesky, and finally some colleague of mine got an invitation, an extra one, a pass that he could send to me. Right. And I got on Bluesky and was looking for all my friends who weren't there yet. And so the fact that the odds have increased now that 1 million people have signed up for it, I'll have to go back into Bluesky and start to see who's there and links that I can follow.
I thought it was really interesting as I was doing the CES interview releases, which I'm still doing, by the way, but I'm still having the same issue. The number of brands that have not seen fit to join Bluesky was kind of surprising to me. I mean, Marty, I had the same experience as far as individuals, but I'm surprised that with all the smoke and fire and brimstone that was the Twitter discussion over the past 6, 8, 10, 12 months, that more brands haven't moved over to one of the alternatives. And Bluesky seemed to be such a logical alternative, even in spite of the invitation requirement.
But I think that was the ultimate bottleneck there.
Right.
Well, there's two bottlenecks. One is invitation, and the second one is automation. So if you have a social media platform that you need to use as a business entity, as a corporation, and you can't use a tool like Hootsuite or Zoho Social to manage that, you're not going to use the service. So I'm looking now to see if Hootsuite has Bluesky support.
You have to wonder.
Not seeing it yet.
I don't know. I mean, and I get why things like Hootsuite, I mean, maybe they don't have the API built in yet, but it just seems really interesting that, I mean, Jeff, since you have it up there, does Hootsuite support Mastodon at this point?
Well, there's not actually an API for Mastodon. So you have to do this other thing where you go into your Mastodon account and then build your Mastodon app, and it generates what would be similar to an API key that you then put into whatever tool you're going to automate with. So as I'm walking through that whole discussion, it's possible that you could do Bluesky through a similar thing. But for Mastodon, you have to do that separate setup, and then you can put it into a lot of the popular social media management tools.
Hey, Chuck, I've got to go.
Oh, okay. Hey, Mark, thanks for being here. Where can folks find you when you're not going?
At X, at MARKFUCCIO, all lowercase, all one word. Good chatting with everyone in chat room, and see you all again soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Take care, Mark.
Take care.
Yep.
Take care.
I'm going to wrap with, I lied. I'm going to do one more because Eric brought this in, and I have an idea. He has some things he wants to say about it. So, Eric, I'll let you take it. This is, again, something we've talked about a little bit about before, the New York Times and AI.
Yeah, it was an interesting article. It's kind of talking about sort of the role of licensing the material that you use to train versus just grabbing it from anywhere, and the difference between academia, where you can kind of just try stuff, and people discovering that when you go out and join a business, you can't continue to do it the same way. Kind of the same way you can use expensive statistics software when you're a student, but then when you join a company, you have a problem if you don't have a valid license. So this is sort of looking at, well, how do people train their models? How do they get the information? And then, the outcome And how did the court view similar cases like Google search for books versus what's going on here? And when you query something, do you get just a fragment of information enough to tell that you're what you're actually discussing, like a book search that returns a title and maybe a short excerpt, but it's not the whole book. And no matter how you do the search, you can never get the whole book, and you can prove that you can't get the whole book, as opposed to if you form the search just right, you can get back the entire New York Times article. That's different. And, which of the different systems annoy whichever judges happen to be reviewing the particular case. That part was sort of interesting. But I was interested in it because it looks like Apple will be introducing a bunch of on-device models, and they likely have their own data that they those models on, especially for things like Xcode assistants and things like that. So it just sort of was an interesting article, and interesting to see how Apple works around the licensing and the training, and do other companies follow that? We will see.
Yeah.
There's still so many questions over this kind of thing and I know what's interesting, even here on the panel, because of some of the previous discussions we've had, not all of us agree amongst ourselves about what is right or wrong when it comes to this. I know,
and I think that's the one interesting thing about LLMs. Basically, they got commercialized before there were any rules.
It's like the laws catching up with the technology. I thought that was kind of an interesting theme. Lower in the article talking about the history with MP3s and ripping CDs, and there's even some stuff in there about VCR recordings. It was very interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
well, again, we've had these discussions here so much. If I own a DVD copy of a movie, do I really own it, or do I just own the license to play it?
Legally, you have a license.
Yeah, I mean, a digital copy that I'm streaming from a service, or that I've stored on a service and purchased there. Okay, that can be pulled out from under me. It's not very likely that somebody's going to knock down my door and come and take the DVD copy. But and then the record companies, they wanted you to buy a cassette copy, a vinyl copy, a digital copy, to be able to play.
And physical copies for each place you plan to listen to the music.
Yeah.
One for your house, one in your car.
I mean, and that's where I think, unfortunately, that the large organizations they were so tone deaf, and the public got kind of used to ignoring some of that. And so OpenAI, the New York Times may have a bit of an uphill battle because of that. Or OpenAI might. I don't know. Depends on the point of view. So
depends on the judge.
Yeah. Guys, thank you. It was great. It's great to see you all. We're back on schedule here. Hopefully, we don't get too many more interruptions for the foreseeable future. But let's go around the room, let folks know where they can find you, and then we'll get out of here, and we'll do this again next Tuesday night. So I'm going to shift the order around and give Brian the first out. Brian, thank you so much. Even though you were late, I'm so glad you got here to share your Vision Pro experiences. Where can folks connect with you?
Appreciate it. Thank you again for having me. Best place to find me is on Mastodon, Brian8944 at mastodon.cloud.
Excellent. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Jim Ray. If you stand up a little more and show us more of your T-shirt, I think it says Mark Zuckerberg fan, but I'm not sure.
Oh, ouch!
Doesn't it?
It's a Colorado flag.
Oh,
it's cool.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I had no idea that I was treading on sacred ground.
Ouch.
Jim, start driving out my way. Pick me up. We'll go to Chuck's house together. We're coming for you, man.
Swing by Ohio.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Marty. Jim, where can we find you?
In Colorado, no.
In Colorado.
On the interwebs, intertubes, you can find me at provue.com, PROVUE, and more specifically on Mastodon at ProView Gym at techhub.social. And that's
Thank
it.
you,
No other podcasts. Just here.
Just here.
Just you guys. That's it.
You're exclusive to us.
That's right.
Gives me the warm and fuzzies, Jim. Thank you. Speaking of warm and fuzzy, Jeff Gamet.
I had a feeling that's where you were going.
It was too good not to. Where can folks connect with you?
Well, when I'm not cuddling with you, and to be fair, who doesn't want to cuddle with you? On social medias, I'm Jay Gamet. I'm active on Mastodon and Instagram, and getting better about being active on Threads. Then for shows, because you are incredibly patient, I keep getting to come back on MacVoices Live. And it turns out Dave is incredibly patient too, because he keeps letting me come back on In Touch with iOS. Then on the British Tech Network, The Big Show and The Mac Show, and also Brian Chaffin and I do The Context Machine.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ben Rathig, where can folks find you?
Well, Chuck, you can find me at Ben Rathig on your social media network of choice, including Bluesky. You can find my ratings at rathig.tech. And all those shows that Jeff just mentioned, I'm on them except for The Context Machine.
I knew he was going to do that.
Work smarter, not harder.
There you go.
There you go.
Nicely done. Marty Gencius, I am so sorry because being off a week, I'm completely screwed up. I should have welcomed you as the newest member of our panel, because the first time you were here, which was last time, you were sort of here as a guest. Marty's now a regular member of the panel, so he's going to show up and you'll hear from him. And we're just delighted to have him, because he brings even more credibility to an already credible, I think, panel. So, Marty, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So glad that you're here.
It's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. I'm glad I'm here, and a good group. You can find me at Gencius, Jencius, my spelling of my last name, at mastodon.social, also at bluesky.social. I guess it's BSKY, which is the attachment to it. And since we talked about Bluesky, I guess we better start I'd better start communicating through that. 2 podcasts, the Tech Savvy Professor podcast and Circular Firing Squad podcast. First one about tech and teaching, tech and academics. The second one, counseling and life questions, where we do a panel that runs around and has a lot of fun.
Great. Thank you, Marty. Hope you feel better.
Thanks.
Eric Bolden, the bird counter himself. Where can folks find you?
I can be found at EA Bolden at techhub.social and EA Bolden at mas.to for the bird things on Mastodon.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Last but not least, David Ginsburg, who apparently was out sunning himself because the weather was so nice in Chicago today. Where can folks connect with you, Dave?
Thanks for having me, as always, Chuck. You can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/intouchwithios. I'm here on Tuesday nights on MacVoices Live. I'm on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network on Fridays, and you can find me on Mastodon at DaveG65 and Mastodon.cloud, as well as on the Bluesky at DaveG65. Find me any social media, but those 2.
Thanks so much, Dave.
Thanks.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices Live, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. YouTube.com/MacVoicesTV. If you can join us, for the live show, please do. It's a great time. There are conversations going on in the chat room. There are conversations going on behind the scenes here. There's always something going on at all kind of different levels. If you can't, though, you can find the lightly edited versions of the show in the MacVoices feeds, but cut up so that they're a little more manageable. And I really, really mean it. This is some of the most fun I have every week. So hopefully it's some of the most fun you have too. Hopefully we make you think a little. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.